Confession time. I will unapologetically always have kind of a soft spot for the original Super Troopers. It's not a good movie. I completely understand that. It's not even what we consider to be a witty movie or clever. There are tons of other movies and comedians and comedy teams that are far more effective or far more appealing to a broader audience. Totally understand that. But the original Super Troopers, I witnessed it at a particular moment in my life where it resonated with me for a plethora of reasons. First of all, I was just into kind of that absurdist, slapsticky, crass humor for the sake of it just existing, and they seemed to pull that off pretty well. There were other kind of imitators out there, you know, a couple of limp-wristed National Lampoon or Todd Phillips movies that didn't quite reach the surreal levels that the Broken Lizard team did. I kind of appreciated that the original movie was one of Broken Lizard's most daring films, I guess, in the sense that it is fighting tooth and nail to not get caught up in its plot. And I know that's a lot of people's major complaints about the movie, is that it tries to even have a plot. If you go through a lot of Broken Lizard's catalog after Super Troopers, things like Club Dread or Beer Fest or even the Slammin' Salmon, which I'm a big apologist for, fuck y'all, I like that movie. You notice that they do try to really mainstream themselves post Super Troopers, that they do try to work in character arcs and an overbranching type of narrative that you want to see a satisfying conclusion to. Not so much in Super Troopers. In the original Super Troopers, they're all out for just kind of grossing out or pulling off weird pranks, and you can tell that these guys are real life friends, at least, that they have a good time doing this, and they seem to wrangle in some talent that doesn't look bitter about being there. Like, you have Brian Cox in there, and he's pouring his heart and soul into this throwaway supporting role, but he is at least delivering on the acting front of things and seems to get along great with the Broken Lizard team. Original Super Troopers, I like it for what it is. It's not great. I don't feel it's god-awful. It's perfectly serviceable, and I can still laugh at it even to this day. Honestly, that came around the time that I was starting to do weird, absurdist comedic stuff with my own circle of friends. We would film weird comedic skits. We'd beat each other up. Many occasion do I have my friend Andy on footage getting punched in the nuts by all of us. So yeah, it's sophomoric and extremely immature, but it kind of met me at that point where I was going through a sophomoric immature phase, and I can at least look back on it in hindsight. Despite being older now, and despite a lot of my friends being older, and quite a few of us probably being what the kids call woke now, we can at least maybe look back with some degree of nostalgia or fondness on it. So when Super Troopers 2 came out, part of me is like, okay, Broken Lizard, let's see what you're gonna do. I was genuinely curious, although I did go into this screening very much with the same mentality I had when it came to Sin City: A Dame to Kill For, in that I thought that this is a sequel that is several years too late to be socially or humorously relevant. And as I was sitting here watching Super Troopers 2, a couple of things kind of just raced through my head. One was that, again, I'm glad they did kind of just go back. They didn't try to legitimize this as a franchise, quote unquote, in that they had any intention of expanding or growing on the Super Troopers mythos. There's no big dramatic stuff taking place here. They just go back to the formula that worked for them in that first movie, which was do shenanigans, I won't pistol whip myself, do hijinks, do those pranks, laugh your asses off, look like you're having a good time doing it, and maybe tie it all up with some sort of government conspiracy, local government conspiracy plot, which they do, and you can pretty much tell who the big bad is going to be the second he's introduced on screen. So yeah, there's not much there plot-wise for anybody. If you're not already kind of in tune with Broken Lizard's comedic sensibilities, you're not going to get much out of this, I'll be honest with you. I got some yucks out of it, I won't lie. There were several points in this movie where I did chuckle. I did laugh because it did kind of just bring me back to the dynamics that these 5 or 6 guys find themselves in these particular movies. Ken, or Kevin Heffernan, who plays Farva, I personally think he is a really good physical comedian. He's definitely the most high energy of the group. I mean, his character has to be, even though that character is annoying as all hell. That's the intent of the character. The character is supposed to be an unrelenting nuisance, so that when horrible things kind of do happen to him on a physical standpoint or on a verbal standpoint, you were in on the joke at that point. And that's continued pretty well in this sequel. His physical comedy is really good. He pours a lot of effort into this Farva character, what little semblance of character there is. They pretty much just pick up where they left off from the original. They're the same characters, nothing with regards to growth or development. And frankly, I kind of forgive it in a movie like this because I'm not looking for growth and development in Super Troopers 2. I don't know, the Super Troopers movies are this kind of weird, I see them as this weird experimental comedy thing where it is just 6 guys saying, fuck it, we find this stuff funny, we're gonna throw it out there, if you find it funny too, you're along for the ride with us, if not, oh well. Because they've been going steadily on subpar comedies for what, 15 some years now without much complaining. You know, there's a lot of fondness among hardcore fan bases, or at least in a cult following sense, for movies like Beer Fest or even Club Dread to an extent. Again, it's really hard to kind of contextualize or put into succinct words why I find the Super Troopers movies funny. What worked for me comedically in this movie? Because, you know, I like other comedies too. This movie is very lowbrow, but it doesn't mean I just wallow in lowbrow comedy all the time. I love, you know, some more clever stuff. I'm a fan of the old Abbott and Costello stuff. I'm a fan of Blazing Saddles, one of my favorite Mel Brooks movies. I love Jack Nicholson's kind of really sardonic and cruel wit and as good as it gets. A lot of the stuff that I really appreciated in the previous movie is enhanced here. Brian Cox returns. Linda Carter returns as the governor, has a more fleshed out role. She seems to not really look like she's exhausted by being there or anything like that. She looks like she's genuinely having a good time, you know, filming her scenes. Brian Cox just goes for broke, and he looks like he's back in rare form with these guys. They do some varied things performance-wise with some of the characters. Ramathorn ends up getting hooked on estrogen or female hormone drugs, and he starts to take on more, I guess, what we consider to be the feminine trademarks or things like that. You know, those stereotypical type of trademarks. The humor is somewhat a little dated. That might have something to do with the fact that I think this was crowdfunded, so it took a while for the sequel to come out. And again, feeds into that idea of this might be a little too late for some fans of Super Troopers. But honestly, I wasn't angry watching this movie. I kind of left it just kind of going like, okay, that's fine. The time went by fast enough for me. I really didn't gain much from the viewing experience, but I had a good laugh here or there every once in a while. There's some good physical comedy at work in these movies, I'll give them that. And your supporting cast looks like they're having a ball. Brian Cox, Linda Carter, Will Sasso shows up as a Canadian Mountie every once in a while throughout the movie, and I love the energy Will Sasso brings into any kind of role he's in, whether it's, you know, this, whether it's Mad TV stuff, whether it's his Vine videos, whether it's a Christopher Guest movie. Will Sasso kind of rocks. So, yeah, Super Troopers, not to put a little hoity-toity or snobbish spin on this or anything like that, it really is an acquired taste. If the original movie wasn't something you vibed to then, I can't see you vibing to it now because nothing's really drastically changed in the structure and the format of this movie. It's just kind of a continuation of these characters minus any growth or development, which you would kind of find inexcusable in other films. But here, where the mission statement of Broken Lizard as a whole kind of seems to be, fuck it, we find it funny and we're just going to put it on film, that's fine with me at this point. It's not grossly offensive or anything like that. The only point where I started to feel a little irritated kind of goes hand in hand with my thoughts and feelings on yoga hosers from last year or 2 years ago, which was, boy oh boy, those Canadian stereotypes are pretty funny, eh? But even then, at least you got really dedicated comedic performers like Will Sasso to try and pull that off. So even if it is an extremely outdated and worn out type of comedic stereotype, he is at least putting some energy into it to make it somewhat entertaining. If you enjoyed the first Super Troopers movie, you'll find plenty in this sequel to enjoy again. Will I have an urge to see this movie again? No, but I'm not like disappointed that I saw it. I'm not overjoyed that I saw it. I'm passively pleasantly accepting that I saw it. That's the highest praise I could probably give it right now. Bottom line, if you like the first one, you'll find this one just fine. If you weren't into their comedy to begin with, why are you going to watch this anyways? I'm gonna go talk about other stuff now.